Back live with you tonight on In Focus, and thanks for staying on. Let's continue then in discussion now with the ANC in Gauteng on the resignation of Premier David Makhura. We're joined by the Gauteng ANC Spokesperson, Lesego Makhubela. Lesego, good to have you with us tonight here on In Focus. Was the Premier pushed?
Nope. The Premier in February came to the Provincial General Council, where all structures of the ANC are, and actually announced to the structures that he has served them graciously for 22 years. He's been at the helm of the organization for these 22 years as provincial secretary, as deputy chair, as chairperson. And therefore he said to delegates as they were about to start with their meetings, preparing for a conference, that he's not going to avail himself for any position in the PEC. And further, he also made a covenant with the delegates there and said that he's going to lead a smooth transition immediately after the provincial conference, working with the newly elected leadership of the ANC in the province. And he did exactly that. He was nominated by some of the branches, and he kept on telling, I'm not available. You don't see that. I know it shocks you. It shocks a lot of people. It shocks especially even those who you term as analysts and commentators who are actually influencers. But he made that promise, and he's fulfilling it, and then he's been working with us as the PEC towards that seamless, smooth transition.
There's a feeling that he would have liked to stay up until conference.
That is corridor talk, which is lies, which some people want to actually use that so that they want to paint the Provincial Executive Committee of the ANC as divided, as power-hungry, as having pushed Makhura, as you are saying. That's not how it happened. Actually, I remember speaking to one of the journalists a month ago and saying, no, we're going to publish that you pushed Makhura. And I said, you can go ahead and publish that, but that is not the truth. And the following day, we appeared in a press conference with the Premier. The officials of the ANC came with the Premier, and we clarified what was happening. Because in Gauteng, it's not Pumasingene. We don't do that. We don't have a PEC of ambitious potholes. We understand the type of province that we are leading, the economy that we have. Gauteng is the economic hub, and we can't afford to make mistakes, especially when you have a situation where you have chaotic municipalities that have been run down by the DA. If you speak about Tshwane, it can't pay salaries, it's in total disarray. If you speak about Johannesburg, you speak about Ekurhuleni, and then therefore we need to just keep this particular province running, and that's why we have been preparing for this seamless, smooth transition.
Were you ready to defend the motion of no confidence if it came to that, which the DA says they had planned for the 18th?
It was a joke of Solem Simanga, who is run out of ideas. I just read his statement that they were going to win a motion of no confidence. They knew they were not going to win. Immediately after the provincial conference, they just ran and just put a motion of no confidence. They knew very well that there was a process in behind the scenes. Of course, they are in the legislature. They can see, I mean, Makhura had already given the reins of the province to the Premier-elect, Comrade Panyaza Lesufi, who's been running things. They are in the legislature. They can see that. And therefore, they wanted to create this particular picture so that they can succinctly demobilize society against the ANC. It's a gimmick, and they know they were ready for that motion. They can put that motion on the Premier-elect. We can elect them on Thursday. Let them put that motion, and then we will defend it.
The legacy of Makhura is what they are debating, I suppose, in terms of the promises that are unfulfilled. One of them being this question of SIU reports that have not been released. I mean, it's not one report. It's reports that date back to 2014, that the Premier promised that there would be consolidated reports that would be released in 2021. It's now 2022. We still don't have those reports.
You seem to have fallen prey to their lies and propaganda.
Right.
There are reports that have been released. There's no report that has been hoarded, that has been hidden. It's a lie that is told too many times, and they believe that for as long as they keep on repeating it, it will become the truth. It's not true. The SIU reports have been released. There was the recent report that was released was on the PPE corruption scandal. The Premier spearheaded that. He decisively acted against those who were implicated. The SIU came in. The reports, their findings buildings, everything was actually implemented. I'm just talking about the recent report.
Yeah.
There was a report on Sekerbos. Yeah. That report, 2 reports came out. Yeah. Those reports clarified what was happening there. Those who were found in the wrong were acted upon. Yeah. So when the DA comes to you, for instance, the lie that they tell, that no, they arrived in Swan in 2016 and found a 4 billion deficit, lies. When you who are sitting in studio, you have researchers here, you can simply go to the auditor's report, which can tell you the finances of the city as the ANC left them, the 2015-2016 financial report by the Auditor General. It will tell you that we left them with a surplus budget there. But because they come to studio, they have all this airtime to actually peddle lies and tell them for too many times. And then you actually start believing those lies.
Maybe you must come and clear these things a little bit more.
That's why I am here. And actually,
let's talk about that. The Bank of Lisbon report. In fact, there were 4 reports that were still expected. One from, I think, the police. There's one that the province was doing itself. One from the fire department, and so on and so forth. What actually happened? A
delay in reports by Chapter 9 institution and law enforcement agencies can't be blamed on the outgoing Premier. If ever an investigation has been actually conducted on the matter, and law enforcement agencies continue on those particular issues to investigate, to conclude their report, we can't rush them. Because we want a conclusive report that is going to point us at the right people, if there are people involved in that particular building, or which will also give us conclusive findings on what we must do. We can't rush things, because once you start rushing,
you can't tell that to a family that has been waiting for more than 2 years now to find out what actually happened. Firefighters died. Remember that.
No, we know that very well. The reality of the matter is that even ourselves, the Premier, I sit in a committee which is headed, by the IFP. The Premier was frustrated to say, we are waiting for this particular report. It's not that the report is under the mattress, or that he wears size 14, or he has put it in his shoes. No. The report, we are waiting for it. Actually, he was saying in a meeting where the SIU was there, where the Public Administration Service was there, and everyone was there, that this is one of the reports that I'm waiting for, so that we are able to put to finality this particular matter. There's no report that we hid. We are the ones that said, when there were issues with life as it meant the Premier. He was the one who said that let's have an ombudsman investigate some of the things that are there. And when the report came on that particular matter, where people lost their lives, where families were actually hurt by what happened, we were the first to arrive. Because we are students of Amilcar Cabral. We mask no difficulties, we tell no lies, we claim no easy victories. And where we have come short, we tell our people the truth. We don't sugarcoat the truth. We tell them the truth. The Premier came boldly and said, here is the report presented to you, and this is what we are willing to go to try to compensate and also to fix some of the mistakes we made in these particular issues.
The question of houses being handed over, those that are finished, especially in the West Rand, we saw that whole situation, there are people beginning to occupy those finished flats, so to speak, that are not being handed over to the rightful owners. Now, I must admit that in August we saw some of the houses in Afri Village at that development being handed over, title deeds. I think 144 houses and 800 title deeds that were handed over now only in August. But there's obviously still a whole lot of houses, a backlog of those units.
There's a party, one of the parties represented in councils as well as in legislature and parliament. They sometimes wear red overalls. Before even a house is completed, they tell people to go and occupy. Right? We have that particular situation. Not only do we have that particular situation, we also have a misunderstanding of expropriation of land without compensation, where people just help themselves to land, led by a particular party. And I think we need decisive action from the police and law enforcement agencies so that we are able to deal with this particular issue. Because if you occupy a house, there are processes here. You were speaking about the Bank of Lisbon. If you go and occupy a building before we receive occupational certificates from municipalities, then that house collapses, what are we going to say? The ANC has murdered people. That's what will happen. So when houses are being built, people know that these houses are being built. They rush in, marshaled by a particular party, which is actually fighting to try to get votes and so forth, forgetting that there are processes. People apply for these particular houses. Some have been on this waiting list for a long period of time. These people who occupy these houses, for instance, we were in Oliven on an oversight. The houses some of them are being occupied by foreigners who just occupy and rent those particular flats out, being marshaled by a particular party. So we need to be able to actually go into granular detail and deal with the facts and the truth. The ANC can't build houses and say, no, we're leaving them just to look nice there. We know we need to give these houses to beneficiaries who've been waiting for them. Yeah. But if there is a process, because we are a process-driven government, we follow the law. Those houses you are referring to, we are waiting for a municipality to issue an occupational certificate. Boom, people help themselves to the houses. And these are some of the things that we need to actually deal with. Yeah. We can't build houses.
So you're saying it's again, as you call it, the tricks of the Democratic Alliance to try and pin that on the Premier.
It is those tired lies of the DA that want to actually lull the people to forget that they've collapsed the city of Tshwane. You know that we used to do interviews when I was still in the Youth League Younger. A smooth-running municipality which was actually working to service our people. People still yearn for the ANC government there. They still ask, where is Dr. Sputa Ramukopa? He was replaced by a joke. Who employed bodybuilders to come there and work in and run that particular city there? And they ran it down. That city has been run down to an extent that there is no single bank in South Africa which wants to touch them, which wants to even lend them 100 rands, including Capitec can't even borrow them anything. So that's where we are. If you speak about the city of Johannesburg, it's the same. The finances of the city of Johannesburg are in total disarray. You can go and look at the finances when we ran those particular cities. So the DA says, no, forget that we are running the city of Johannesburg, forget that we are running the city of Tshwane, forget that we are running Ekurhuleni. Let's focus on these lives that we want you to look at, so that we forget the mess that they are doing in all these corridors, as we call them, or in all these particular important cities of our province. And these are the lies that they continuously tell. And sometimes because, you know, I don't know, the research capacity of studio houses lacks sometimes when somebody comes here and just peddles lies, when the truth is just facing you. When you can just go to the Auditor General report, when you say that you went to a municipality, you found a deficit, just go to the Auditor General report.
But you must always avail yourself to respond. Because you can't speak for the ANC. We are a media house. We are not a media desk of the ANC.
I was on my way
to defend the ANC.
I was on my way to Pretoria when I received the call from your producer. I turned back. Yeah. I turned back because I respect. Whenever we are called, I understand your role. You are a watchdog of our democracy. Yeah. It is through you that we are able to communicate with our people and dismiss these blatant lies that they are told every day. But you also have to be able to probe further. Yeah. When people come here, sit in your studio, I was listening to that interview which was here. Yeah. And you live in Johannesburg, you lived in Tshwane. You know that you experienced a very nice government, proper government, when there was the ANC in Tshwane when you were there. And I can understand that you are supposed to be neutral.
It's not everybody that experienced that. But we're out of time. I appreciate you driving back and coming and bringing that clarity for us.
Thank you very much, Tau.
As Lesego Makhubela speaks for the ANC in Gauteng.